17th century Japan. The land trembled under the weight of war and silence. Villages burned, blades clashed, and honor was the only law left standing. And among the chaos walked a man whose very presence silenced battlefields. His name was Miyamoto Musashi, the undefeated swordsman, philosopher, and architect of inner power. 60 duels, no losses, no equal. But what made him invincible wasn't his sword. It was his discipline. Musashi's genius didn't lie in strength or speed. It lived in his mind, a mind trained like steel, forged in fire, cooled in stillness. The greatest warrior Japan ever produced was not born different. He became different. He built himself from the inside out, brick by brick, failure by failure, choice by choice. And he left behind a system, a code, a path he called the way of the superior man. It wasn't about fighting others. It was about mastering the invisible war within. Every dawn, he faced the same enemy we face now: comfort, hesitation, self-doubt. He wrote, "The way of the warrior is death." But he wasn't glorifying dying. He was teaching rebirth, the daily death of weakness, the daily resurrection of strength. Each morning before the sun rose, Musashi was already awake. He greeted the dawn not with comfort but with clarity. He believed that the man who begins the day with intention has already won the first battle. To sleep through that moment, to delay the call, was to surrender before the war even began. He understood something most people never realize. Every act of laziness is a small surrender of the soul. Every "I'll do it later" is a quiet defeat. Discipline is not about punishment, it's about precision. It's the decision to walk the harder road, even when no one is watching. Especially when no one is watching. Musashi lived by what we now call the 5 rings of discipline: earth, water, fire, wind, and void. Not symbols, but psychological laws. He built them not for mystics, but for men and women who sought mastery in the ordinary. Earth, the solid base. Build your routine like you would build armor, piece by piece, with patience and consistency. Wake at the same time, eat at the same time, train at the same time. When your schedule becomes sacred, your mind becomes still. A Harvard study centuries later confirmed this truth. Those who win the first hour of the day win the day itself. Water, adaptability. Flow with circumstance, never against it. A rigid mind breaks under pressure, but one that flows around obstacles never loses shape. Musashi knew the rhythm of life changes without warning. The disciplined man bends but never breaks. The path may shift, but the purpose remains unmoved. Fire, controlled intensity. He simplified life to protect his energy. Same clothes, same meals, same path. He didn't waste his flame on indecision. He burned for mastery. Modern neuroscience confirms what Musashi practiced instinctively. Willpower is finite. Guard it, spend it wisely. Direct it only where it matters. Wind, awareness. Know yourself as deeply as you study the world. The true enemy is never outside of you. It's the inner voice that whispers, "Later." Musashi fought that voice every day. When it said, "Stay in bed," he rose. When it said, "Wait for the perfect time," he began. He turned every moment of resistance into an act of defiance. He didn't conquer others, he conquered hesitation itself. The clear mind. In stillness lies the sword of truth. Musashi sat alone for 10 minutes a day in complete silence. No music, no movement, no escape. Because when all distractions are stripped away, what remains is the raw truth of who you are. The weak man fears silence because silence reveals his lies, but the strong man seeks it because silence sharpens his spirit. Through years of solitude, Musashi discovered what he called the dead hour, a window in every day when willpower dies and excuses take over. For him, it was between 2 and 3:30 in the afternoon, that fog of fatigue when the body wants rest and the mind seeks comfort. And yet that was the moment he chose to strike. He called it the dead hour ritual. At his lowest energy, he faced his hardest task. Because if you can win when you are weakest, You will dominate when you are strong. Most people wait for perfect conditions. Musashi created strength through imperfection. He understood that the hardest moment of the day is the gate to growth. If you can cross it once, you will never fear it again. Now pause. Breathe. Ask yourself this. When does your willpower fade? What is your own dead hour? When does that quiet enemy whisper in your ear? That is where your training begins. And if this message stirs something inside you, a quiet recognition that you were built for more than distraction and delay, then you are already walking the path. Subscribe to Dojo Path. This is not entertainment. It is training for the mind. Each video is a step deeper into ancient mastery. Because like Musashi, you don't need more comfort. You need clarity. You don't need more time. You need focus. Musashi's strength was not in perfection, but persistence. He lived by what I call the 3 no's. No negotiation with weakness, no waiting for motivation, no breaking of sequence. When he failed, he never failed twice. If he missed a day, he doubled the next. Not out of guilt, but to remind himself who commanded the will, the mind, or the excuse. Neuroscientists today affirm this ancient wisdom. Consistency rewires identity. Repeat an act long enough and your brain will stop asking, "Should I?" It will simply do. You will no longer act disciplined. You will be discipline itself. In his final years, Musashi withdrew into silence. He called this stage the path of the superior man. He wrote 21 rules, not for swordsmen, but for the soul. He said, "Accept all that comes, covet nothing, regret nothing, depend on no one." In these words lies the secret of freedom. The man who wants nothing cannot be controlled. But mastery demands proof. Musashi's final test was simple and ruthless. For 7 days, choose one thing your weaker self resists and do it every day without fail. Wake before dawn. Read 10 pages. Train in silence. It doesn't matter what you choose. What matters is that you win the daily war. 7 days, 7 victories over the weaker self. When you finish, the man who began will no longer exist. When temptation strikes, use Musashi's final weapon. A single phrase he repeated whenever resistance whispered, "I choose. Not I must. Not I should. I choose." Because choice is the birthplace of power. Choice separates those who dream from those who do. Musashi never feared death because he had already died to weakness 1,000 times. He didn't conquer others. He conquered the self that hesitated, doubted, complained, and waited for perfect conditions. And that's why he died undefeated. The question is, Kane, how will you live? Will you surrender to the voice of comfort or rise to the rhythm of purpose? Will you repeat another day of someday, or begin walking the silent path today? The superior man is not born superior. He is made, in the silence before sunrise, in the choice to begin, in the courage to continue when no one sees. This path has no destination. It is walked every day, with quiet defiance, steady breath, and unwavering purpose. So rise early, train the mind, build your rhythm, conquer your hours, and when the world sleeps, move. When it doubts, act. When it screams, stay silent, because every sunrise is a duel. And the only question that matters is this: who will win today, the man you are, or the man you could become? Train your mind, master yourself, walk the dojo path,